Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is Mark Daily Devotion, 7 o'clock. I'm just going to go ahead and read through 2 Corinthians chapter 10, rather. And again, just read it through the NIV and also read it in New King James Version. And then I'm just going to give my information, what I got from it. Nothing that I've researched, nothing that I've really thought of ahead of time. I know I've read this chapter before, but I'm just going to read just document what I've got from it today. So let's go ahead and get started with the word of prayer. So let's pray. Lord God, thank you again for the day you've woken me up. You've given me this place where I can come and be safe and comfortable, not too hot, not too cold, where I can just read your word in peace. I can come to you. I don't have to go through any special rituals, nothing fancy. It's just me and your word, and I can learn from you. God, I just pray, God, you would continue to work in my life that would bring glory to you, that I would also just share your word, God, that I would share your word. This is one of the best ways that I've been able to do it here so far. Thank you for helping me being consistent. It's been, 20 days, 15 days so far, somewhere around there of daily doing this devotion to share your word and to document and any sort of just documenting my journey learning you and just hearing from you. So it's live, and I get to hear who you are. I pray that I would not just be reading to just read and get it done with, get it over with, but I would help me to understand that this is a time where I can spend with you and learn from you and even have it impact my life. I want to lift up now those that are listening in right now, that whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, next year, whatever time it is that they're listening, but they would listening and watching, they would be affected as well. They would know who you are. They would learn from you. They would have a relationship with you. They would want to learn more about who you are and who you want them to become as well. And I just want to also want to pray for upcoming events at churches that are coming up. I know there's baptisms happening this summer. There's vacation Bible schools happening, whether they started now or next couple of weeks or next few weeks, whatever it's happening. God, I know that there's ministry happening. I want to lift up those people that are going to be doing that. They would stay focused. They would continue to honor you, sick or not, because I know it's going to happen. Someone's going to get sick, and they're still going to come serve. They're going to have trials. They're going to have issues. They're going to have pains. They're going to have anything that's going to happen. It's going to try and derail them from doing ministry. I pray that you guide them. You'd help them to know that it is all part of your plan. I ask these things in your name alone, Jesus. Amen. All right, so we have 2 Corinthians chapter 10 in the New International Version. So it says, "By the humility and gentleness of Christ, I appeal to you. I, Paul, who am timid when face to face with you, but bold toward you in a way. I beg you that when I come, I may not have to be as bold as I expect to be towards some people who think that we live by the standards of this world. For though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not weapons of this world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And we will be ready to punish every act of disobedience once your obedience is complete. You are judging by appearances. If anyone is confident that they belong to Christ, they should consider again that we belong to Christ just as much as they do. So even if I boast somewhat freely about the authority the Lord gave us for building you up rather than tearing you down, I will not be ashamed of it. I do not want to seem to be trying to frighten you with my letters, for some say his letters are weighty and forceful, but in person he is unimpressive and his speaking amounts to nothing. Such people should realize that what we are in our letters when we are absent, we will be in our actions when we are present. We do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise. We, however, will not boast beyond proper limits, but will confine our boasting to the sphere of service the sphere of service God Himself has assigned to us, a sphere that also includes you. We are not going too far in our boasting, as would be the case if we had not come to you, for we did get as far as you with the gospel of Christ. Neither do we go beyond our limits by boasting of work done by others. Our hope is that, as your faith continues to grow, our sphere of activity among you will greatly expand, so that we can preach the gospel in the regions beyond you. For we do not want to boast about work already done in someone else's territory, but let the one who boasts boast in the Lord. For it is not the one who commends himself who is approved, but the one who the Lord commends. All right. New King James. Let's see. So 2 Corinthians 10, the New King James Version. Now I, Paul, myself, am pleading with you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, who in presence am lowly among you, but being absent am bold toward you. But I beg you that when I am present, I may not be bold with that confidence, by which I intend to be bold against some who think of us as if we walked according to the flesh. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and even casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ, and being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. Do you look at things according to the outward appearances? If anyone is convinced in himself that he is Christ's, let him again consider this in himself, that just as he is Christ's, even so we are Christ's. For even if I should boast somewhat more about our authority, which the Lord gave us for edification and not for your destruction, I shall not be ashamed, lest I seem to terrify you by my letters. For his letters, they say, are weighty and powerful, but his bodily presence is weak, and his speech contemptible. Let such a person consider this, that we are in the world, or we are in word by letters what we are in word by letters when we are absent, such we will be indeed when we are present. For we dare not class ourselves or compare ourselves with those who commend themselves, but they, measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves, are not wise. We, however, will not boast beyond measure, but within the limits of the sphere which God appointed us, a sphere which especially includes you. For we are not overextending ourselves, as though our authority did not extend to you. For it was to you that we came with the gospel of Christ, not boasting of things beyond measure, that is in other men's labors, but having hope that as your faith is increased, we shall be greatly enlarged by you in our sphere, to preach the gospel in the regions beyond you, and not to boast in another man's sphere of accomplishment. But he who glorifies, let him glory in the Lord. For not he who commends himself is approved, but whom the Lord commends. All right, let's go into what does this all mean? From what I understand, let's start off. By the humility and gentleness of Christ, I appeal to you, I, Paul, who am timid when face to face with you, but bold toward you when away. So that's very clear. Some people are saying that Paul, when he writes letters, he's very bold and he's very forceful, but when you actually meet him in person, he's weak and very timid. He's going to go on to talk about that some more. I beg you that when I come, I may not have to be as bold as I expect to be towards some people who think that we live by the standards of this world. So Paul is hoping he doesn't have to be that stern. And it's really funny when you think about it. Like, perhaps, he was changed. That's a good thing. It's a good testament, saying that he is bold. He was timid in person, so that means he's made some changes. But again, if you remember, he was pretty murderous. He was a pretty I don't want to say bold, but he was kind of crazy. Wasn't a weak guy. He was okay with dragging people out of churches, dragging people to Jerusalem, dragging the Christians. He was pretty relentless and zealous, so I wouldn't call him timid at any point. Maybe there's people that didn't know him then, or maybe it's been 10 years, 20 years. I don't know how long this has been since he's writing it, but it's just interesting that some people would say that. Or it's just, obviously, it's just people being negative or trying to deny what's the truth. But it's an interesting testament. So either he is more timid, so he's changed, or people are just saying those things because they're against what he's saying, trying to discredit him. Verse 3, for though we live in this world, we do not wage war as the world does. So of course, it's much easier to wage war as the world does, with weapons and guns and explosives and violence. That's pretty easy. All you have to do is just get something stronger, get more people, get something stronger. It's really easy to fight that way. But the weapons, in verse 4, the weapons we fight with are not weapons of this world. On the contrary, we have the divine power to demolish strongholds. Later, I can't remember what it is, but I think it's one of Paul's writings. But there's weapons we're fighting with is not carnal. It's with powers and principalities. It's a spiritual warfare. That is much more difficult. It's in it's in everybody's mind. That's where the fight really happens. You don't start sinning accidentally, like someone bumps into you and you suddenly start eating a whole bunch of food, or suddenly you start stealing. It's not an accident or something like that. It's not necessarily a reaction. It's something that happens in your mind first. You first have to think about it. And that's why Jesus said that adultery can happen in your mind and murder can happen in your mind before, or in your heart. He said, in your heart. It can happen before it actually happens physically. That's spiritual warfare. Verse 5, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Yep, there's the mind. So things that you have to think about, you have to think about your thinking. I can't remember if there's a word for it. But think about your thinking. What are you thinking about? What are you allowing yourself to really dwell on? That's the word. What are you allowing yourself to dwell on? So everybody has, I'll tell you this, everybody has these thoughts that are like come into your brain. They're called fiery darts of the enemy, right? They come into your brain. Oh, I should do this. I should do that. And you know that they're wrong, but it doesn't mean you need to think about them or dwell on them. They come, you let them go, and then you just let them go. Give them to God if you must. There's a person who talks about negative thoughts. He will literally say, he used to at least, I'm not sure if he needs to do it now, but he will literally say, he would out loud say, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's a negative thought. Get it away from me. Those kind of things. And then he would continue on his day there, continue on, and he would get in the habit of doing that, and they would go away. That's right. So it's less, he would have less of those. Take every thought captivity, make it obedient to Christ, and make it. So he wouldn't say this, and it wouldn't be God's word if it wasn't possible. We need to be able to do that. That's really a huge verse if you think about it. Verse 5 of 2 Corinthians chapter 10. It's huge. Demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. Take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. Because what we are a manifestation of our thoughts, right? What we do, what we believe is what we're thinking. Verse 6. And we will be ready to punish every act of disobedience once your obedience is complete. So I think that's going on to saying Paul is going to say, hey, we're ready to take action. We're not just going to let you guys do that, let you guys go into sin further and further. Obedience is what we need. Verse 7, you are judging by appearances. If anyone is confident that they belong to Christ, they should consider again that we belong to Christ just as much as they do. I'm not exactly sure what he means by that, other than he's saying just by appearances. It is judging by appearances. People say it all the time, and I don't have the verse right now, but he says you're not supposed to do not judge, right? Lest you be judged. People talk about that one all the time. But here saying verse 7, you are judging by appearances. You can't judge by appearance. And you can look at somebody and think one thing, and you could be completely wrong. But what I do understand is that people do judge by appearances. Like I look at some food, oh, looks gross. That food looks gross. So the food looks delicious. Let's say this. Let's say in a positive way. How many times have you seen something, especially food, and you say, "Oh, that looks so delicious," and you actually taste it? It's not good. So we do judge. I think that what people are not misunderstanding is that we're not supposed to hold that judgment against people. Because another way I see it too, you're walking down the street, you're at the mall, whatever, you're in a place, and you see a guy or see a woman dressed really nicely, dressed in a nice suit or a nice dress or whatever, good hat or whatever, and you might think well of them, and then you hear them speak or you spend some time with them, and then they not a very nice person or not very kind. Doesn't mean they're, but we judge thinking, oh, this must be a nice guy, must be a sharp person. Same thing goes with a homeless person, right? They're dirty, they're crouched down, whatever. You might think that they've drawn drugs or whatever. You might think those things right away, or you might think they're dangerous. And then you spend a little time there, and then they will eventually show who they really are. So it's not so bad to. That's what I understand. From my understanding, it's not the problem of judging because we have to for safety and survival. But you don't want to hold that against somebody. So judging by appearances is talking about if anyone is confident they belong to Christ, they should consider again that we belong to Christ just as much as they do. I'm not sure what he means by that part, but I do know that he does talk about judging by appearances. I'll go on. Verse 8. So even if I boast somewhat freely about the authority the Lord gave us for building you up rather than tearing you down, I will not be ashamed of it. So even if I boast somewhat freely about the authority the Lord gave us for building you up rather than tearing you down, I will not be ashamed of it. So he's saying if there is a boast that he's going to do, it's going to boast for about helping people, about edifying people, building them up. It's nothing to be ashamed about that. I guess that's what he's meaning there. I'm not too sure about that. Verse 9. I do not want to seem to be trying. I do not want to seem to be trying to frighten you with my letters. Right, so that's not Paul's intention. In all the letters, if you really read them, he's not trying to scare people. For some say his letters are weighty and forceful, but in person he is unimpressive and his speaking amounts to nothing. So again, he's talking about people that some people are trying to discredit him. They're trying to say that he's not as, doesn't have as much authority, but he's just trying to make sure he's recognizing that. He's saying, yeah, I heard what they say. I heard what they say. Verse 11. Such people should realize that what we are in our letters when we are absent, we will be in our actions when we are present. So he's saying, I heard you. I know what you're saying about me, but he's gonna prove it. I'm gonna tell you again. Don't be deceived by what other people are saying. Verse 12. We do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise. So there's later, I'm not sure if maybe it's in Thessalonians or another one of Paul's writing. He talks about super apostles. I think that's kind of a similar thing what he's saying now. That some people are comparing themselves, they're not classified, compare themselves with someone that commends themselves. So someone that's saying that they're boasting about themselves, they're the greatest, they're amazing. That's not necessarily a good place to compare yourself. So what he's saying also in 12 says when they measure themselves by themselves, compare themselves by themselves, they're not wise. So to say you're doing great, I mean, it's one thing to compare yourself, saying, "Oh yes, I did 10 push-ups today. Tomorrow I did 12." That's good. That's improvement. But when you compare that to a bodybuilder, 12, he's going to say, "Wow, that's great. I did that in 20 seconds." Right? 12 push-ups, that's not a lot. That's not very much. You can't say you have authority on something when you're not doing very much. Or even saying, I read a book today. It's like, great, I read 2. Like, wait, that's cool. So you got to really consider what the real what you could say, what you really should be compared to. I guess if anything, if there's any comparing going on, you have to not consider yourself super wise. I guess you're saying there. Hope that makes some sense. Verse 13. We, however, will not boast beyond proper limits, but will confine our boasting to the sphere of service God himself has assigned to us, a sphere that also includes you. I'm not sure if he means that he's not going to boast. he's saying if he's gonna do any boasting, it's gonna be about service to God and service to God to the people, to the Corinthians. So maybe I think he's trying to say, I'm not gonna tell you about all the stuff I did for other people, but I can tell you about the stuff I did for you guys. Whatever I did, that's for you. I think that's kind of what he means there. We are not going too far. We are not, verse 14, we are not going too far in our boasting, as would be the case if we had not come to you. For we did get as far as you with the gospel of Christ. I'll read that again. We are not going too far in our boasting, as would be the case if we had not come to you. For we did get as far as you with the gospel of Christ. Let's try the New King James. I think that makes more sense to me. For we are not overextending ourselves as though our authority did not extend to you. For it was to you that we came with the gospel of Christ. Okay, that makes more sense to me, that version. So is he saying that we're the ones that brought Christ to you in that sense? We helped you understand. So it's kind of like a father kind of figure, kind of fathering idea. It's like, I'm the one that brought you to this. And so we're not going to go too far in our boasting, as far as would be the case if we had not come to you. For we did get as far as with this. I don't understand what that means, other than he's saying that he did bring Christ to them, if that makes any sense. Last couple of verses here. Neither do we go beyond our limits by boasting of work done by others. Our hope is that as your faith continues to grow, our sphere of activity among you will greatly expand. It's great. He's not going to try and bring up other people's works. It's just, we want you to grow. So 16, so that we can preach the gospel in the regions beyond you, for we do not want to boast about work already done in someone else's territory. Again, so he wants the gospel to be preached. It doesn't really matter who's done it. We just want it to continue to go. Doesn't matter. That's the goal focus. Preach the gospel. 17, but let the one who boast in the Lord, for it is not the one who commends himself who is approved, but the one who the Lord commends. So if you're going to boast in what the Lord has done, in the Lord's work. Let me see, verse 17 in New King James. But he who glories, let him glory in the Lord. For not he who commends himself is approved, but whom the Lord commends. So God's going to give us praise, and he's going to show us trustworthy and are approved. Who's going to do that? We don't need to do it ourselves. If you're going to boast about anything, talk about all the great things that God has done. Talk about great things that Jesus has done. Talk about great things the Lord has done. That's what I understand from that. That's good. It's a good place to stop there. So tomorrow, 2 Corinthians chapter 11. We'll see you all then. You guys, the rest of you, have a good day. Bye now.